Hello, another video from the Angry Photographer here. Now, while I have made a plethora of videos about all flavors and tastes of 50mm Nikkor lenses for use on the FX and DX camera, this video does need to be made. The one lens that whether you have a D3000 series, 5000, 7000 series, D600 series, D750, D800, D700, partridge in a pear. It doesn't matter what Nikon DSLR you have, you need, and I use that word emphatically, need a 50mm. Why? Every FX camera, DSLR, Nikon out there needs a 50mm prime lens. It just does. Now, whether you have the budget for or not, probably is not really up for discussion. You may have limited funds, but if you don't have a 50mm prime, you should get one. Why? Several points. You do need a 50mm prime. Image production, very, very cheap. Now, while the pancakes have gone up in price, I obviously have no control over supply, but you can purchase really nice lenses like the Nikkor 50mm f2 for $60 roughly. Remember, you cannot meter these on D3000 series or D5000 series cameras, but that is an issue for most people, but it concerns a lot of newbie photographer users, and that intimidates them, in which case I would recommend the 50mm G series, which can be had for roughly about $150 used. Of course, new, I think it's $279. Excellent Supreme lens. And you're asking me, well, I already have a Nikkor 35mm 1.8 G lens for my DX camera. Well, that's all well and fine. That is an excellent lens, and it's $200 new, roughly $130 used, and it's an excellent normal lens for your Nikon DX camera. However, you still need, as does the FX camera owner, a 50mm. I use the word need sparingly. This is probably the one and only video where I say need in an emphatic and genuine denotative sense, and not connotatively or loosely. And the reason being that a 50mm is a perfect portrait lens and an excellent, supremely cheap prime lens, really the cheapest, because Nikon has spit out a bazillion 50mm of every flavor, make, model, construction, quality, so on and so forth. You do need it, and there's no argument on that. Now, you may not have the budget for it right now, but I do highly recommend, as is the spectrum of necessity, if you're going to start collecting lenses, half of them roughly should be prime lenses. And if you've avoided the 50mm and you say you have 3 or 4 lenses, it's like, well, you know, I've got these great, well, those are great lenses, but why don't you have a 50mm lens yet? And there's really no excuse for it. Budget constraints aside, and we're talking about $50 or $60 for a Supreme portrait lens on a DX camera. Now, if you have a Nikon D7000 series, 7100, 7200, or older Nikon D90, you can obviously use screwdriver lenses like the 50mm f1.8 here. Okay. Cannot be autofocused on the D3000 series or the D5000 series. Nevertheless, I recommend even those users purchase a 50mm prime, even if you have a 35mm 1.8 G prime already, which many of you may or may not have. There really is no excuse for it. All Nikon users, FX or DX, should have, if they're expanding their lens collection and they've got, you know, a kit lens, for example, and a wide zoom, or maybe they're just saving up for a Nikkor telephoto lens, you really should try to grab a 50mm. So please keep that in mind when you're considering the logical philosophy of expanding your lens collection, the spectrum of your lens collection, to make you happy. Because I'm thinking in a general sense, and I do use the word need specifically and emphatically in this video, that I don't care what Nikon you got, you need, using the big need word here, need a 50mm. Okay? And obviously what Nikon camera you have is going to depend on what recommendation I can give you, whether it can be metered or not on your Nikon DSLR. Sorry, some of them are slightly expensive right now. They used to be really cheap, like the Pancake. However, if you have a Nikon camera other than D3000 series or D5000 series, you know, D800, D750, D7000 series, D700, Really cheap on the cheap. Nikon f2 50mm. 50, 60. I found more than enough of these in minty new shape for 45, 60 bucks. You know, built like a tank. You know, throw it down a long street and let it tumble. Be ugly at the other end, but it will still work 99 times out of 100. Indestructible, supreme quality, lasts multiple lifetimes. You've really got no excuse considering how expensive lenses are. Of all the lenses that you have probably purchased already, that if you don't have a 50mm prime lens, be it manual focus or G or D series, go out and get one. Most all of them except for the Nikon 50mm G series for autofocus and metering on the D3000 series and D5000 series cameras are $100 or less. Everything here is $100 or less except for this expensive little puppy, which is the Nikon 50mm f1.2, Nikon's fastest current production lens. You do not need this. I'm just showing this as an example. New, I think it's $700. Cheapest used is $400. Not making that as a recommendation, so set that aside just as an example. Everything here, as well as the many other Nikkor 50mm, are easily $100 or less, and many of them are $60 or less. And I'm talking about minty, perfect, like new shape. So you got no excuse. So go out and grab. If you don't have one already, you know, set up your budget for blowing $100 on a Nikkor 50mm prime. Ask me any questions about compatibility with your specific Nikon. Catch you later. Another video from the Angry Photographer. And let me know what you think. Alright? Catch you later. Bye.